Hey everyone, this is going to be a short video on preparing your data to be analyzed. And specifically, we're going to talk about reverse scoring and scale scoring, or summarizing variables. So I'm going to jump on over to SPSS here. When we get our data set, it has a lot of variables in it, but it's not really at a point that we can do anything with it, that we can analyze it. For example, here we have our work family variables: work family 1, work family 2, work family 3, and work family 4. Now, when we put these in an overall model, or we try to do anything with them, it doesn't really make sense because they're each individual questions. What we have to do, and kind of the end goal for today, is get our variables averaged together so that we can use them in further analyses. In other words, so that we can have one overall work family variable, one overall job stress variable, one overall satisfaction variable, and so on and so forth. Now, before we do that, and we'll do that in a second, we want to look at our reverse scoring, because sometimes we're going to have items that need to be reverse scored. I've marked those out in the data set, and I do this when I collect data with an R. You might not always have that sometimes. So it's helpful to, first off, think about what a higher score means for these variables. In the case of this work family example, a higher score means you have more work family conflict. So let's read through these. There's only 5 of them, and we won't even go through all 5, but let's look at if a higher score truly means that, or if we have to reverse the numbers given. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to values, and I'm going to look at how these are scored. And they're scored with a 1 to 5. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, and always. So, number 1. Overall, I feel like my job keeps me away from my family too much. Yeah, that checks out, right? A higher score means you have more work-family conflict because your job is keeping you away from your family. I'm going to skip to number 3 here just to make this point. Number 3 says, overall, I'm comfortable with the arrangements for my children when I'm working. Well, maybe that actually needs an R as well. That's interesting. So a higher score on this says that you're comfortable with your children's arrangements. Great. That means you have less work-family conflict, so we have to reverse score that one. Number 4, overall, I feel like because my work is demanding at times, I'm irritable at home. Well, a higher score on this means you have more work-family conflict, so we're leaving that by itself. Number 5, my work schedule often conflicts with my family life. Again, that's a higher score means you have more work-family conflict, so that's fine. And let's check out 2. Number 2 says, I find enough time for my children. That's another one that we need to reverse. Why? Because we're saying a higher score means you need to have more work-family conflict. Questions number 2 and 3, higher score actually means you have less work-family conflict. Why do we care about this? Well, if we're going to average these together to get one overall work-family conflict score, we need them to all be going in the same direction. Otherwise, they just kind of cancel each other out. So the first thing, and I'm just going to do this with the work family variable for simplicity's sake. Keep in mind, though, for your projects, I did this for the work family variables, for the job stress variables, for the SAT variables, and the intent to quit variables. So we're going to reverse score. We're going to do this in 2 steps, and then once we do this to all the variables, our data set's ready to go. Again, you don't need to do anything with this. I'm just demonstrating it so that you know what's going on in the background. So the first thing we'll do is we'll reverse score our work family variables. And I'm going to go to transform, recode. I'm going to recode into the same variable because it makes life easier. And I'm going to pull in, we're doing these 2 variables for work family. And here's a tip. I'm going to right click. I'm going to right click and display the variable names. That makes it easier for me to figure out what's what. So I'm going to pull in numbers 2 and 3 because these were not like the others. So these are the ones we want to reverse score. And remember, this was on a 1 to 5 scale. So the kind of what we want to be doing is we want to make people for these items that scored a 1 get a 5, that scored a 2 get a 4, that scored a 3 they stay the same, 4 becomes a 2, 5 becomes a 1. That way, once we're done with this, all the variables are going in the same direction. So now that I've selected what variables I want to change, I can tell SPSS what those numbers should be by clicking on old and new values. If our old value on the left side is 1, our new value is a 5. Then we click add. If it's a 2, it becomes a 4. 3 stays a 3. 4 becomes a 2. 5 becomes a 1. And whenever I do this, I always stop right here and I think, okay, let me go over this list and make sure that I have everything. That way I don't accidentally miss something. But I've got everything. We click continue and we hit OK. And you'll notice there's no real output here, but you do get a couple lines that said SPSS did this. So for your projects, you would do this for all of the variables you're looking at. And remember, there's a lot of variables in here. I don't see a need to walk through all of them right now, but know that this was done for your project output. So again, you're not doing it, but hopefully you're following along. The next thing we want to do is transform and compute a new variable. Just a few minutes ago, I said, using these 5 variables separately doesn't make much sense. Let's use them. We need to create an overall average or composite variable that I'm just going to call work family. And our composite variable is just the average of all the variables we've had in there. Again, I'm just going to remind you guys, you reverse code first, you composite variable next. And all it is it's the mean of work family 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In parentheses with a comma in between, hit OK. And now let's check something out. We're going to go to the end of our variables, and we have a new work family variable. This is the variable we'd use for most of our further analyses. So again, just this is I think a lot of you have done this in 301 or 302. This is just the refresher. In the next couple labs, we're going to talk and start using these variables or variables in a different data set maybe to do regression and to do things like that. So just the reminder, this is what you need to do. Okay, folks, that is it for that video. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.